The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question to the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is now in session. It is March 2nd, 2025, and a lot of crazy things have happened since the last video. Now, first of all, I'm not talking particularly about the front, because that's not the main focus of this video today. We are instead talking about the big theater that took place in Washington, D.C. Literally. And I mean theater, for sure. What happened was Ukraine's President Zelensky flew from D.C. to my country, the United States of America, to go meet up with President Donald Trump. And the point of this whole meeting was to sign a deal in which Ukraine would sell itself out in regards to its natural resources. And these natural resources, according to Trump, would have been able to compensate for all of the money that the United States paid for during the Biden administration that we spent in Ukraine. And at first, this meeting was going decent. It was going fine. But at the near end, disaster struck. Vance and Trump were literally questioning Zelensky. His motives, his ability to win the war, his lack of motivation to even negotiate with the Russians. They were literally bogging him down, literally humiliating him in front of the cameras that were being broadcasted to the whole world. And as a result of this meeting going very poorly, the mineral deal was called off. Literally, next door, there was going to be papers, pens, or something like that, where this deal would be signed. But that didn't happen. It all fell apart pretty quickly, and as a result, Zelensky left with nothing, and the U.S. did not get its minerals from Ukraine. And as a result, the U.S. says that it is no longer negotiating with Ukraine over this so-called deal until Trump has said it himself, Ukraine actually tries to fight for peace. In other words, selling a bit of your land out to Russia in return for peace. But the Ukrainians have refused to do so. They thought this was going to be the second Biden administration. But instead, they got a kick in the nuts. And as a result, Zelensky left the U.S. with nothing to be proud of. And now he's in Europe, Western Europe especially, to basically get the Europeans to help him fight the war all by themselves. Zelensky especially went to London in the UK to get this support from Keir Starmer, the current Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And it looks like for now they have locked down some support. Now, how long will this last? I don't know. But as far as I can see, I think Zelensky is definitely going to get complete support from Europe. But from the United States, it's not looking very likely at this point. Now, if you ask for my personal opinion on how this could impact things in Ukraine, very drastically. Because without U.S. support, Ukraine is cooked. Very cooked. Poland can definitely not fit the bill, nor can Germany, nor can France, nor can literally any Western or Southern European country. Nobody can replace the United States. Nobody. And even if Europe were to become self-sufficient in regards to military spending, it would take years. And by that point, it will probably be too little too late to save Ukraine from being gobbled up by Russia. Too little too late. And even though they have expressed interest in doing so, both the Brits and the French admit that they cannot send troops to Ukraine without guarantees from the United States. So Ukraine is cooked. They're cooked. 70% of NATO's budget all comes from the United States, not from the rest of Europe. 70% comes from the USA. And if the United States were to leave NATO, as Elon Musk says, I think we should do that. Like, if we left NATO, the whole alliance would collapse, and Russia would capitalize almost immediately on that. And besides, I don't really know if they can really defend themselves. Especially, like, they literally sent a lot of their ammunition, weapons, and heavy equipment over to Ukraine to fight the Russians. And for these reasons that I'm stating right now, I don't think they can do it. If the Russians wanted to, like, let's say in the hypothetical scenario that they take over Ukraine, what's to stop them from going into Europe? Like the rest of Eastern Europe. Like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Moldova. Well, Moldova is very likely, to be honest with you. What's to stop them? Especially in the Baltic states. They literally gave everything to Ukraine. F-16s, ATACMS, Storm Shadows, Javelins, HIMARS. They literally gave them so much. And now that the U.S. is thinking about literally abandoning the whole ship, this jeopardizes the whole defensive belt of Europe. And especially for the Balkans, it's great news if you're Serbia, but not good news if you're Bosnia and Herzegovina and the rest of the former Yugoslavia. If NATO collapses, we will see another Balkan war, and it will result in Serbia potentially winning, because the Russians are going to support, again, in a hypothetical scenario where they win the war in Ukraine, they would use a friendly government like Hungary, and from Hungary they would support Serbia, which would fuel them to the point where they would be able to gain the strength to start another war in the Balkans and retake back everything that they see as theirs, like Bosnia, Montenegro, Kosovo. I don't know about Croatia and Slovenia, but definitely Bosnia and Montenegro would be cooked if NATO were to collapse. But right now, I don't really see it. I think the U.S. will be like, okay, Ukraine is cooked. We'll abandon them, but the rest of NATO, no. We're going to make sure the Russians don't attack you guys, but Ukraine and Moldova are fucked. But yeah, the whole meeting was a disaster for Zelensky. And as I said, I don't think Europe's funding and short amount of weapons are going to stop the Russian advances. Now, right now on the front line in Ukraine, we're going to talk about that right now, a lot of shit is frozen. Like, both sides are not being able to move because of bad weather, because of bad field conditions, troop rotations, or just an outright operational pause because of the said bad weather. We are literally right now in the off season of, like, the Ukraine war. And for those who don't remember, like, the past 3 years of this conflict, the only time where winter was truly active for either side was in 2022. But other than that, 2023, 2024 have mostly been nothing burger winters. Nobody wants to fight in winter anymore. Nobody. And for that reason alone, I don't honestly think that the Russians, especially, are going to really start pushing aggressively again until perhaps maybe late March to early April. And I knew during January and February that the Russians were not going to advance as much as they did, per se, like in November and December. I just didn't see it. Like, for example, okay, let me bring up War Report's statistics. In December 2024, the Russians advanced around, let's see here. December 2024, sorry if I'm starting to format this as if it were a live stream. The Russians only captured around, like, I guess 496 square kilometers of land in Ukraine. In January, I think it went down to like 404, and then this recent month, which was February, it went down to like 337. So the advances have slowed down very significantly. We are literally right now in the off season of this war. So yeah, but yeah, I'm reading the War Report's stats right now from Telegram, and yeah, they only calculated 496 square kilometers of captured land by Russia in December 2024, and then in January they only captured let's see here, for January 2025, yeah, 404. For February, only 337. Yeah, that confirms it. And this is a major contrast from November 2024, where they captured 808 square kilometers. Like, Russia was advancing very quickly in November within Donetsk Oblast, but now they've slowed down. And I do believe this is partly because the Ukrainians are sending in reinforcements to the Pokrovsk direction, but also to TORETSK, which I'll talk about a little later. But as you can see on the map here, nothing has changed much. Literally, nothing has changed. Despite these continuous counterattacks by the armed forces of Ukraine, the Russians have been able to hold the line and keep things the way they are. The advance towards Dnipropetrovsk region has kind of stopped for now, even though they are getting closer and closer to it every day. I've been seeing some videos circulating all over Telegram where I have seen some Russian tanks spray painted to Dnipropetrovsk. Like, they're literally hinting that, like, they're actually going to go in there and take some parts of it to claim for themselves. They're literally going to do it. But right now, I just don't think it's the time. As I said, bad weather, poor field conditions, troop rotations, maybe an operational pause by the MOD as a proper order, I think, across the whole front. And also, we haven't really gotten anything from the Andriivka direction, too. Now, we do have some movement from the Velika Novosilka sector. Berlatsky has fallen. Prelivne has fallen to Russia. Skudne has fallen. I mean, they are making advances, but they're not going to be as quick as they were during fall. Again, there are a number of factors that are really hurting the Russians right now on the front that do prevent such advances from taking place. Now, I do believe once they take Shevchenko here, which apparently is home to the actual deposit of natural resources, then we can actually start talking about Dnipropetrovsk. But right now, I've kind of toned it down a bit when it comes to speaking about Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, because it's clear right now that the war in Ukraine is sort of in its off period. Everybody is just focused on trying to build up defenses, fortifications, regrouping, rearming, you name it. Everything has slowed down on this front. I mean, maybe there have been some limited advances, especially in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Apparently, the village of Pitazhaki is back under Russian control, so that's one of the last remnants of the 2023 counteroffensive by Ukraine that is still, I guess, still there. But once they take Lopkove back, then there will essentially be no more 2023 counteroffensive gains that the Ukrainians were able to hold. Like, most of what they took nearly 2 years ago now is gone. Literally, it does not exist anymore, especially near Velika Novosilka. Now, Toretsk is a very strange ordeal. So apparently, Ukrainians have infiltrated parts of the city. But here's the thing. There have been no reports of Ukrainians consolidating the gains in Toretsk, and there have been no reports of Russians literally losing control all over the place. Now, is it true that it is a bit of a mess there right now because the Russians weren't able to lock down these landfills, like these junkyard hills? Yeah. But as of right now, we don't have any confirmed information of Ukrainians not being only to counterattack in Toretsk, but to also hold on to the gains that they made within Toretsk. I was literally kind of surprised that the Russians screwed this up, but I don't think it's as catastrophic as many people say it is, at least yet. Maybe by the next video, I will look stupid and half of Toretsk will be back under Ukrainian control. And to me, that's the best the armed forces of Ukraine can really do. But it seems so far the Russians are holding on, and it doesn't look like they are losing any control of the city anytime soon, at least majority-wise. And in the Chazov Yar direction, the Russians have advanced a little bit in the town center area. They took these commie blocks here and clearing out the rest of the industrial zone, along with taking these areas south. But that's about it. In the Lugansk direction, we have a very strange report of Ukrainians being encircled in this area here, south of Bilogorivka. And it's true, that is a complete catastrophe, but I hear there weren't a lot of guys there anyway, so maybe Ukrainians won't really give a damn too much about that, but any loss is a bad loss. And in the direction of Liman, it appears the Russians have cleared out the eastern outskirts of the village of Yampolovka. So now they are all but cleared for an assault on TORETSK. The Russians have also reportedly, at least according to Suryak, withdrew completely from the Kupiansk direction, but I don't know why he kept this all under Russian control for this long, because Ukrainians had that area for a very long-ass time now. Like, the Russians left it already a while back. Sinkovka, though, is still under Russian control, so if you're a pro-RU guy, there's nothing to worry about there. The Russians have also reportedly made some gains outside of the village of Stepova Novoslivka. And they took, indeed, the village of Kalinove. But other than that, though, the advances in the Kharkiv direction appear to be on hold for now. Nothing especially in Volchansk. Nothing in the Lipsy direction. And yeah. Or even here. I don't know why that's still there, by the way. Now, the only noteworthy frontline report we got, if anything, for today's video, is the events taking place in Kursk and Sumy Oblast. Now, ever since the Ukrainians invaded Kursk from the Sumy region, I knew eventually at some point that if the Russians were to ever retake the areas bordering Sumy, they would attack Sumy. And that appears to be the case as of this video. The villages of Zorovka and Novinke are under Russian control. For the first time since 2022, the Russians have control over some settlements in the Sumy Oblast. Not a joke this time around. It's for real. It's been confirmed by Deep State. It's been confirmed by Divjin. It's been confirmed by, I think even, Military maps info, I think. I mean, most of the key mappers, especially AMK, have all confirmed that the Russians are, in fact, in Sumy again. And if you ask me what I think their objectives are, it's to do sort of like a 2024 spring Kharkiv-like offensive here, just to ensure that the Ukrainians do not attack the Kursk Oblast ever again. But I feel like in order to really lock it up, they need to take basically everything north of the city of Sumy in order to do just that. I don't know if they're going to, but if they're going to create a buffer zone, it needs to be a big one. And for all I know, maybe it could be the springboard for the actual offensive into Sumy. Like, Russians are like, all right, we had enough. We're going to start gobbling up Sumy now. It could all start from Suja. I think the first objective of this operation is to cut off the road going into the Sumy region. And once they do that, the Ukrainians in Suja itself are cooked. They're going to get completely massacred by the incoming Russian soldiers. And things are not looking any better for the Ukrainians, especially in the northern Suja direction. The village of Lebedivka is back under Russian control. Lakhnia is encircled, even though some people have said it was already recaptured by Russia. Nikolsky is back under Russian control. Iron Dispatch claims Viktorivka is back under Russian control, but we don't have any confirmation of that. But what we do have 100% confirmation of is Novaya Sorichna, Orlovka, and from what I understand, also parts of Malia Lakhnia are even now being contested by the Russians again. So, the significance of this advance is that if the Russians are able to clear this area north, then the path towards Suja is not only busted wide open, but it makes it a lot easier for the Russians to start clearing the rest of the Kursk pocket. And the way I see things, I feel like the Russians are going to try to carve them up into pieces. Like, they're not going to do a bum rush towards Suja. They're going to instead entrap the Ukrainians that are in Suja right now to ensure that they don't escape to Sumy. So that when the Russians do the assault on the Sumy region, well, right now that is, they will not be able to get back and to build proper defenses to prevent a Russian advance deeper into the Sumy region. So, by literally being entrapped in Suja itself, Ukrainians will start to have a lot of problems manpower-wise in Sumy. The Russians will be able to capture a lot of this along the whole border with Ukraine, and as a result, the whole Kursk thing not only falls apart, but it completely backfires. And it leads to a second Russian invasion of Sumy. And as we can see right now, it's already slowly materializing, but I don't think it's going to truly kick in until April, when the mud goes away. But yeah, everybody, that's going to do it for today's video. Again, not a lot of activity on the front, but more activity on the political side of things. And yeah, so I hope every single one of you has a great day. And to be quite honest with you guys, you may not see videos like this for a while because of how things are going on the front. Like, it's slow-paced. Like, what more can I really say, right? I may not make a news report for at least 2 to 3 weeks because of the slowdown in advances by Russians and Ukrainians. I might make some more, like, commentary videos, maybe some shitposty content as well. I mean, I'll do stuff. The channel's not going to be inactive. It will very much be active. But stuff like you're seeing right now, that's going to be on hold for just a little bit. So yeah, I hope all of you understand. And I hope every single one of you, as I said, has a great day and take care. Peace out.